let's get to some top picks. Our guest does see promising names in Canadian energy, despite this choppy global economic outlook. We're joined by Dennis De Silva, Senior Portfolio Manager at Middlefield Group. Dennis, it's great to see you.
Nice to be here.
What is your take on oil? I know there's so many factors, but is it going back towards 80, do you think, anytime soon?
You know, it's kind of funny looking back. I think of early April, you had the surprise OPEC Plus cut, let's call it roughly 1 million barrels, although Russia was already in there for 500,000. Mm-hmm. And you saw oil kind of trend up to 83, and now here we go. We lost $10. We're under $73. And it's just this real negative sentiment in the market. Obviously, an overriding concern with global economic growth, but it's hard to see that when you look at the overall market, where there has been upswings in the overall market, but energy hasn't benefited. So, I look at the numbers, you look at whether it's the IEA or EIA, they're looking at significant growth in demand this year. I think the IEA is projecting 2.2 million barrels, or break 100 million barrels of demand. And supply, where's it coming from? The US, the projection is maybe it grows 700,000 barrels a day. Clearly, it's going to be a new record compared to 2019, but not enough to supply that demand. What
was the new record American production?
2019 was the last record. This year, they're expected it'll be 12. I think it's 12.4 million
American
barrels.
Production is coming back.
It will break a record, but again, it's just year over year. It's only 700,000 barrels, and next year the projection is 400,000. So we're not getting the growth we used to, where it was over 1 million barrels a year. And I think everybody acknowledges discipline in the producers, as well as the fact that we're probably getting the best stuff out of the way, and we're starting to get closer to second tier drilling locations in the U.S.
Naturally, they drilled the sweet stuff first, maximize cash flow.
I think even the producers, you talk to Scott Sheffield, he'll acknowledge, we'll probably have run our best stuff, and now we're starting to get a plateau over the next 2 or 3 years, most likely.
But that's interesting. I didn't know American production was people thought that it would go back up towards record highs again.
That's the projection again. Compared to 2019, after coming off that high, we're now progressing back toward those record levels again.
Scott Sheffield, of course, the boss of Pioneer Natural Resources. What about natural gas? Let's put up that Henry Hub. That has struggled, hasn't it, the natural gas price?
It has. We're back to kind of early 2021 levels. The way we see it, and I think part of the theme with our top picks was Canadian energy specifically, and a couple of names are natural gas, because we do see a very interesting story evolving for Canadian natural gas. And it comes down to export markets. LNG Canada starts up, you can argue, late 2025, early 2026. If you look at the next 10 years and all the projects that are on the plate, we could argue you're probably looking at about 7.2 BCF of new export demand. Canada produces 18. If you then incorporate new LNG demand from the US, maybe it's 10% of that comes from Canada. We're looking at production growth over the next 10 years of probably 50% for natural gas in Canada.
Wow.
So we're looking at the producers that will play key roles in that expansion and have the most desirable assets that the Cheniere's of the world, for example, in the US, will desire and want to work contracts into.
Well, that leads us neatly into your ideas here, Tourmaline.
That's the largest natural gas producer in Canada. They have already done a project with Cheniere. I think it's a 10 or 15-year contract, and they'll export into the Gulf and then ship it into the Japan-Korea market, which right now it's weak like everything else, but it's probably 4 times higher than what the Canadian price is. So the ability to export into that market, access the California market, which is traditionally much stronger than Canada, use storage capacity to kind of go through lulls and not sell into a weak market, is a key strategic, what I'll call an egress issue for Tourmaline. And from that, you get significant free cash flow generation. We're looking at probably a 10% yield this year between primarily special dividends and their base dividend, which is around 1.6%.
Topaz Energy, a spin-off from Tourmaline.
Just a coincidence, but it was spun out in late 2020 from Tourmaline. It's a unique player. Again, participates in the natural gas play because it's right now about 80% natural gas. It is in some of the top plays in Canada. Great partners like Tourmaline or Whitecap or Tamarack. Nice distributions, around a 6% yield. It will be exposed to significant organic as well as M&A activity to grow that dividend over time.
And is it a processor, or what is Topaz?
It's unique. It's a royalty company primarily. I think 85% of its revenue is royalty. So like a Freehold and like a Prairie Sky, but about 15% comes from infrastructure ownership. And that's a very, very stable source of income that I think investors like. It's kind of underperformed Prairie Sky over the last year, but I think that's the opportunity for investors, is this thing needs to re-rate, especially as its growth starts to outshine some of these other names.
And then finally, Headwater Exploration. What's the story there?
A little twist. So this is an oil producer rather than natural gas. It's kind of a smaller cap. I think it's $1.5 billion market cap. It is in probably the hottest oil play in Canada, called the Clearwater Formation in Alberta. 40% growth in 2023, 25% growth in production in 2024, pays, I think, a 6.2% yield that will grow, and significant cash flow generation and free cash flow with zero debt. So for us, this is a re-rating story. You get paid while you wait, because it's probably the hottest growth story in Canada at this point.